Okay. Welcome to another episode of All Up in My World with Kelly Pajek. As I prepare for the greatest role of my life as Ava Gardner, the Ava Gardner, or perhaps even Deva Gardner, D apostrophe, gives it a little bit of an international flair. Greatest role of my life. So, I'm going to just do what I do. And talk to you. I love this. I want better gray hair. I want to do pin curls. Kind of, because bewitched, bothered, and bewildered is the idea. Like it's more of an essence. And bewitched because of all this stuff. Bothered because of all this stuff. And bewildered because of all of this stuff. So I can just sort of meander around in a confused state with a martini glass kind of idea, and it would not be a huge reach for me in terms of acting skills. So I thought that would be good. And the Mrs. Ella Fitzgerald, who's famous for singing that song, is buried in Inglewood Cemetery, but I don't know. Well, it doesn't matter. Maybe I'll just sit at home dressed up, because it's a good idea. Yeah, right? It's a good idea. It's like to emulate a role model, the essence of a role model. It's not about literally looking like her, which I obviously, as a white woman, couldn't look like Ella Fitzgerald. And also, I'm not the shape. I'm not anything like her. But that wisdom, that song is so funny. It's like, oh, the joys and woes and the predictable outcomes of the romance applied not only to, obviously, men and women, but to life in general. And it's just comical, and it resonates with me. See, Halloween has always been that for me. It's been an opportunity to sort of like explore an archetype. So the year I was Artemis and I dressed my kids up as wood nymphs. That's our famous year. Lauren was like this big. What are you? She said, wood nymph. And the parent was like, did she just say wood nymph? This girl got her glue gun on that year, let me tell you. Amy and I have been so out of sync. I had no idea she was that close to her due date. I've been so out of it. I've been a horrible friend. Everybody's gonna just have to cut me some slack. It's been a weird time. Top stitch. Cut me some slacks. Oh, isn't that cute? I love it. Hey, Titi Kai. Yeah. Oh, let's say hello to the Twitter. Oh. You cut on some slacks. I'm a horrible speller. And I think they're playing games. Like, I'm like looking up the spelling of things and they're serving it up misspelled. That's what but that's the thing. Like, I've been so played that I can't release myself into the enjoyment of a moment because it's just been put in my face. Ha ha ha! It's just been like, even yesterday with I'm like, I think that's a little girl baby, but I'm totally ready for them to like be like, no, it's a boy. I'm so ready for those. Gotcha. It's just been like, this whole thing has been like this non-stop pop quiz. Like, right? I'm like, I've been trying so hard to be grateful. I'm like, I really want you to know that I appreciate the fact that there's this whole huge thing at the Hollywood Bowl and it's all for me, but it's not enjoyable because I don't feel like I'm prepared, and that actually feels like being put on stage naked in the spotlight all by yourself is what that feels like to me. It might seem like, oh my God, it's so awesome, look at her, right? But that's actually quite terrifying, to be repeatedly put into situations, very public situations, and not know what's going on. That's profoundly disorienting. And for someone who has attempted to be someone who looks up spelling and looks up grammar and looks up facts and looks up, to suddenly discover that my entire digital world has been hacked and that nothing is as it seems, it makes interestingly enough, actually, that was a breakthrough, because I've always been hung up because of my upbringing to make sure that I could be articulate and say da-da-da-da and present facts, and this is the way you do things, this is the way corporate presentations are done, you do your homework, you make sure your basics, blah, 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 blah. Basically, it's warfare, right? I would always say that too. Put on your Wonder Woman bracelets, we're going into a presentation, right? And then to suddenly be put in this situation where none of that was being done. And I'm like at the art museum in Los Angeles, and I feel like I'm getting quizzed on postmodernism, and and I'm like, oh my God, I have a basic, I went to art school, I have a basic understanding of this stuff, but look, I'm not ready to be a public person. It's, oh my God, this is the stuff that I really care about, and I am going to look like an ignorant fool, incompetent. This is a problem. I couldn't possibly be an expert on all these topics in public without preparation. Oh, don't worry, we're shooting you. We're in charge of it. Wait, how is it that you're in charge of something that I'm in the middle of, and I have like, excuse me, sorry, pardon me, right. Well, anyway, that's over. I've made that very clear, that we are not walking Kelly into disorienting situations, no matter how fabulous you think they are, because Kelly won't be able to interpret it that way, right? It's like, it's like a child on Santa Claus's lap. The ones that are prepared and confident have a great time with it. And there are other ones that are just like, oh my God, I'm sitting on some stranger's lap, and the colors are bizarre, and it's loud, and it's hot, and it's noisy, and you wonder why children scream on Santa's lap. It's not rocket science, right? It's profoundly disorienting to someone who's seeing the world in that way. I guess that's my point. Okay, so cool beans. I hate the kite. And then you're right, obviously I got pressed so far in the psychosis. It was so painful. Oh my God. Yeah. So I'm back to that. Oh, I'm back to that because I'm getting centered and I'm trying to figure out. So it's Wednesday and I have no plan. Right? There's nothing that I have, and I'm supposed to go to Watts tomorrow and deal with this guy. Oh. Who could be a friend, or he could just, I have no idea. Every time I walk into a situation, it's like they're trotting me out, which I appreciate, right? I appreciate being able to do a presentation of the basic concepts on the floor with a baby. It's much more relevant, obviously. So we're on the same page there. We're getting there. That was good. That part was really, really good yesterday. That was really good. It was just, sort of being open-hearted and then being like slammed with this ugly information is unfortunate. But every time we make a mistake, we can make an improvement and move forward. But in the meantime, right, that was the thing I was getting last night. It was very disturbing. Like that's a window of opportunity that is closing in. I don't know why that is. Is it something about the fabric that allowed this to happen to me? It's something like that, and it's shifting. It's just like a current, just like everything else, right? There's an opportunity. I was already pulled out of words, but is it Bodhisattva? No, how do you pronounce that? Lead a horse to water. Yeah, it's not so easy in California. So yeah, think. You can hear that that's not me, right? Do we have enough recordings of it? Trying to crack a joke, but I have to wait. I see. Okay. I sent something out this morning and I just brought it. So regardless of whether that was an artificially generated sound or an actual, I didn't actually see the bird that time, but my sense, right? And this is my power right now, is the fact that I can't tell what is reality and what's not. And I can't tell if I'm crazy or if it's my imagination, like my creative imagination, or if this, but I will just simply tell you what just happened. Was this morning I specifically put a prayer into a crow or a raven or whatever these birds are. Specifically to that. And then, just then, I got a sense that that was being answered. And I started to speak, and the sense that I had was that, like a carrier pigeon kind of thing. Something that the things that move in currents carry with them from one environment to the next. And that is not the first time that I've had that sense. I've had the sense that I was having very individual conversations when I was at the park in Oregon, when I was on the cliffs in Oregon, countless times up in Idlewild, here, where as whatever this is that I'm doing, I'm just simply letting the place here know what the message that I just received, even though I don't understand what I just said. I have no idea. And sometimes I do have a sense of what's being said, and sometimes I don't. Like when my own spirit is talking to me, very clearly I have a sense of what, because it's my spirit. But when that stuff happens, I'm trying to think of a time, have I ever understood? The only thing that I can understand as the body through which that thing is happening is I can read my body. That, like, whatever happened on Broadway left me feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach for a good half hour afterwards. And that's what the instrument thing is about. Grounded in the body, the mind-body connection. I'm a lady. I became an antenna. I became an interface between myself and the places and people that I'm interacting with. I'm so curious to know how people who have known me previously feel in my presence now. Right. They should, if they are at all, they should feel something. I would think they would feel something. I wonder if that's what I felt yesterday. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? That was almost the same. I can't do it again. Yes, I can. There it is. That was the sound from yesterday. Right? Something like that. It was ba 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 ba. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 maybe. Mama, yeah, they're so much more careful than they used to be with the sounds now. Because it doesn't take much for me to register it anymore, obviously. It's shorthand for me now. It just... this is orientation. This stuff is orientation. Eta, space orientation. Eta, I think is something like Ishtar, Easter. It's like I wake up in the morning. It's like a child would say mama. Hita, it's something like that. Hita. I say it all the time. It's the sweetest thing. That's the thing, right? So, refiner's fire. I was just pressed into it. I was just pressed into it. It's the sweetest thing. When that channel is open in your heart, it's like, it's this, I know, inner child has been so, like, misused as, like a way to say irresponsible. I'm going to get in touch with my inner child, kind of like. But the fact that, like, innocence recaptured, like, that exists, and, you know, that it is disturbing to go outside. But to have the privilege, I mean, it's so funny, because I always told Scott, you know, before this whole, whatever, I don't even want to talk about, oh my God. I told one of my ex-lovers that if I were to leave him, I would probably leave him to become a nun. And I'm so body-centered and sexual, and it's so hard to believe that that Mae West would be like a nun. But to be in a place where that voice just sings all day long, it's like a child who's not, you know, who's at your knees. You know how children just are like, la la la, dee dee da, and they're moving from one activity to another, and they're in this loving home, and that was God's intention, you know. So it's kind of glorious. And scary. I mean, when those other voices come, it's scary. You know, it can be really frightening. And especially if it happens because something's gotten set off in the middle of a city street, and I'm, oh my God, it wasn't even a city street. Remember, oh my God, that time in Idlewild. I'm in this 3-street town, and I got so disoriented. But I walked around the whole entire town. I was like, I know there's a loop, and if I just walk the loop, I will eventually get home. And I was like 100 yards from my destination. I appreciated that about both the Wolf of Wall Street and the drug taking effect and getting up the steps. That was really accurate, and Blue Jasmine just rocked my mind. And at the time of Blue Jasmine, I was like, now see, she is a wealthy woman. I had no idea that it was actually like, I had no idea that my family was so wealthy at that point. I just identified with the character. She was so beautifully played. Oh my gosh. Art is everything. Art is how we make a better user interface to the world. because it's how we imagine better possibilities. It's how we learn how to process our mistakes. It's awesome. We're going to have so much fun. And it's really leveraging, right, the American, like who produced the images associated with the American brand? Hollywood did. So it's just pure heart perfection. When you're in this place, that stuff just happens. And the only reason why I chose LA was because I really wanted to get started on designing these ideas right away. And I'm still here with my kid until she graduates from high school next summer. And I just said, oh, I wonder what would happen if I just did a USA rebranding project. If I've been doing brand books, for clients forever. And it's not about, I wasn't doing some spiritual guru abundance meditation. I was doing a style guide. And I said, okay, well then, the initial thing was so funny because I was like, I've either got to figure this out. I've got to figure out a way to interface with this experience or I'm going to kill myself. And then I was trying to think of how on earth I was going to kill myself because I'm followed. I know I'm being followed and I know I'm being watched in every place that I live. So my design challenge, I'm going to give you all the details. So my design challenge was, how am I going to kill myself without fucking up? Because the last thing I want to do is wind up with injuring myself. Like I want to die, not injure myself. So that was a parameter, obviously. And the real challenge was, it's got to be quick enough so that they can't come save me. So I'm like collecting things so that I can board up the bathroom at the house up in Idlewild, and I'm going to, slowly over time unplug all the fire alarms, and I'm going to just do like a charcoal briquette thing in the bathroom, and I'm going to nail myself in so that I'll be dead by the time. So this is my mind, right? I'm like, I have got to fucking get out of this. Okay. Well, so then I'm very depressed at this point, right? And so this. So then I'm like, you know what? Fucking hell. Surely I can find someone to shoot me, right? What if I just went to the hood and offered someone like $500? And then I'm like, you know what? They are going to point a gun in your face, take your money, and walk away. They're just going to go, give me the fucking money, lady, right? But that's how the idea started. I'm like, what if I went to the hood and... Isn't that funny? So anyway, and then I started, and I'm like, okay, then I'm like, oh, well, instead of killing myself, maybe I'll work on these social programs. I need that, right? And my whole thing for the psychotic, like the way I got out of, the way I got out of this, I had Legos. So I would have, I think I've talked about this before. So I would say, okay, when you're really, really depressed, I mean, it's like, okay, today, if I get up and get dressed, okay, and I take a walk, then today will be successful. Or if I actually get up and drive to the animal rescue and walk the dogs and then come back, then today's a successful day, or whatever. So you start doing these little briquettes of
because you can't read, and the thing that was remarkable to me in those antipsychotic meds is like I'm like into this shit. Like I like to meditate. I like to read scripture. I'm like totally into this stuff, and I'm making these. I'm totally into it, and I couldn't pray. I mean, how messed up would I have to be that I recognize I'm like, oh my God, I can't pray because all that's happening is I'm reinforcing these thoughts. That's the problem. So you're basically in this cycle. And so that's where these paintings come from. And I mean, now we're going to go back. We're going to go back and understand this better over time. But basically, my thought was, I'm going to take, the idea of a mandala, those sand things. And then I was also interested in doing art that was at human scale. Like, can we not make sacred art, in the home? So I have a bunch of ideas, right? I'm always got a bunch of ideas, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so I was mashing up these different ideas, whatever, and that's how I started to get out, because I already had the Legos. All I needed was the climb. And now that I'm on the climb, now I'm up here, and I can go up and down this climb like lightning. All it takes is for you to set off a negative trigger, and I can be in hell or heaven ASAP.
It's okay. And I'll take you there. But the direction is up to you. And your national security now depends on owning this, because if you don't do it intentionally to move towards the light, someone will move it the other direction. So it's not like this scary, like, you going to hell if you slap the hand conversation. It is simply created our new field of engineering, structural engineering. It's pink flower. Oh! Oh, thank you. Okie dokie. Plan some makeup. I need to get some makeup too. But that also requires. It doesn't require if I just settle down and order it online. Okay, that's probably a good thing to do. Order my makeup from the grocery store so that I can get a delivery. I'm telling you, this whole Pimp My Ride program, there are so many businesses. Right? There's so many. Like, my job is just to do the nonprofit bit, right? So we understand now why ID has to be nonprofit, right? We understand why this has to be something that's owned by us. One of my questions also for just
let's call it security. Let's just call it security. This is a massive problem right now for everybody anyway. Financial stuff. And also plus when we do this, all the middlemen are gonna get cut out. Like all the slowly but surely, all the people that are like, sorry, but all the unnecessary legal stuff, all the unnecessary bloat, people who are scamming the system, our tax dollars, banking. I mean, they're vipers, right? Is that the right thing? Vipers, barnacles. What's the thing that like sucks? Ticks. They're ticks. And they're not doing anything for us. You know what I'm saying? And it's time to transition our most intelligent people out of these worthless careers and into solving problems. We're wasting our inventory. Like anybody running the store, and I have vast experience in retail, having owned 400 square foot space in Laguna Beach, vast experience. A small business owner does not spend a lot of money on crappy inventory. A good shop owner tries to buy the very, very best inventory for the very lowest cost. Again, I've studied advanced economic theory, and Warren calls me. He calls me, he's, oh my God, when are you coming out to Omaha? And I say, oh, I don't know. I'm very interested in the Native American populations there. I mean, if someone were to invite me to Omaha, and it happened to be on the way to Washington, D.C., where I'm planning on spending Thanksgiving, if, I can figure out how to get there. Kids, who is running the store, is what I'm asking. Who's running the fucking store? Okay. Pinups are staging a coup. Oh. Riding on the peace train. Oh, I'm so excited. We're gonna figure this out. I know. Love you. Okay, Lita. Hey.